Amazing. We're live. All right. Hi, everybody. I'm so excited to have this incredible woman here today. I've long time been a fan of Diana's, and we actually only got to meet recently down in Texas for our cabinet get together, which is our higher tier founder community. But I'm going to jump in because we have so much to talk about with her. Before I do, a couple quick reminders. I'm Allie Wyatt, co-founder and CEO of Female Founder Collective. We actually have our 10th house consumer brand cohort that's live right now. This is for founders building in beauty, wellness, fashion, and any adjacent consumer categories. And as a member, you get to be part of our accelerator program, which Avery Bradford and Avery, who is our programming lead and puts together all these incredible events for you. We're going to be talking about Founders Operating Manual, which is our 8-week accelerator program, masterclasses, workbooks, fireside chats, and consumer-only founder community. So after you get Founders Operating Manual, you have an entire year with this incredible community to discuss and implement all the things that you're going to learn, whether it's about your founder role, whether it is putting together your financial model or coming up with your marketing strategy together. And we now have a lot of AI tools and prompts that we're going to be baking into that so that you have those things at the ready to implement into your business, because whatever you put into AI, you're going to get something really bad out if you put something not great in. But without further ado, I am going to go to Dianna and introduce her. So if you guys don't already know her, which I think most people that are here today already know about your incredible background, that she's the founder of Crown Affair, which is a hair care brand rooted that I just used on my dirty hair. I used your dry shampoo, but it's rooted in clean, effective formulas, handcrafted tools, and a ritual-based approach to daily care. Since it launched in 2020, Crown Affair has become one of the fastest-growing prestige hair care brands, available at Sephora, Goop, Violet Grey, Moda Operandi, Mecca, and other leading retailers. And before founding Crown Affair, Dianna actually launched Levitate, which is a brand marketing agency where she led creative and strategic initiatives for companies like Harry's, Outdoor Voices, Buck Mason, and more. So very big and warm welcome to you. I mean, it's not at all confusing, by the way. Now, it's like knowing your background, that you then came and created the most incredible brand. But I want to talk a little bit more about it because you came through some of the most brand forward companies over the last decade, like Into the Gloss and Away and Levitate, before actually founding Crown Affair. So what's the thing that you learned in those years that a lot of founders don't figure out until it's too late?
I mean, so much of what I learned is not just what to do, because I all think we know that the playbook has changed so much. I feel like every year the playbook changes. I feel like I learned a lot about what not to do as well as a leader, and just like team building and things like that. There were just so many learnings. And that's why I always say to people, it's really important if you can to like get experience and learn on other people's dime before you actually start your own company, so you can go in with so many learnings of what to do and what not to do. But I would say on the what to do side, one of the things that I was really lucky to experience, like very close and personal, was building brands that had bigger missions or bigger, I don't know, like an ethos or essence that was so much bigger than just the product itself. It really changes the way that you think about how products integrate into your life. And it wasn't just about like the product and the benefits and features, but actually like the soul and the community and the why behind things. And it was just amazing to be so early at these businesses to like get the essence of that. Cause I do think the essence, it's really hard to retain it as you hit year 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You can, but like those first 3 years are just magic. And to be right up with the founders during those days, like I always say that it's not just where you worked, it's like who you worked for and when. And I know people who have had similar career paths to me after me, and we'll talk about it. And it's like, even though we worked at the same places, it's like we had totally different experiences. So I think that's also important to remember if you're somebody who loves being in entrepreneurial environments or startup environments, like it's not just about the where, it's the when that's really important.
I love that. That's so beautiful. But also you worked at Into the Gloss. And something that was really special about what Emily did, and I worked with her those early days, but not at Into the Gloss. Were you at Into the Gloss?
Yeah, I was at Into the Gloss with Emily and Nick Axelrod. Yeah.
Yeah. So in those early days, I was at Refinery 29. So they came into the offices, and And we just absolutely love the Into the Glass blog. But a lot of founders ask me, should I create a social channel before I've actually launched my product in my business? And this is me talking off the cuff, what is your take on that? And what did you sort of learn in your Into the Gloss days that really you applied to Crown Affair? Because I feel like you launched and it's as though you lived and breathed and had a community long before the brand ever existed.
Yeah, I think it's essential. I think you need to just start in a way that feels authentic to you.
Yep.
So for me, that was like my actual real life community of people, right? At that point, I lived in New York for a decade. I had real people in the world that I knew, a long email list of people. I was gathering people together. I didn't have like a social channel with a big audience, right? My Instagram, I was just a normal person posting vacation photos, like a couple thousand people, but I actually had a real network of people. For
Yeah.
somebody else in this day and age, that might be 100,000 TikTok followers. You know what I mean? Like they're
Yeah.
different things, but or it could be a group that you have on LinkedIn with 10,000 people where you talk about whatever. I think it's important to just start whatever that is for you. I will say, as a millennial, I'm definitely like not a founder that builds in public. I care way too much about the brand, the campaigns, like having
Yeah.
things be tight. But if you're someone who's younger or really loves building in public, like that's amazing too. And people want to follow along. You know, I have mentors in my life that are 10, 15 years older than me who would never do what I'm doing, right? Like I don't build in public, but I'm posting on TikTok, I'm posting on Substack. Like I enjoy the community. So I think it's about figuring out where you are and figuring out what's in alignment for you. But the best advice is like just start whatever that format is, because yeah, you don't want to start from zero. Like you got to start, people want to support what they're part of creating. So like figure out what that is in alignment for you, and then just start doing it. It compounds and you build momentum on those little moments before it's like live in the world.
And I want to talk about your brand ethos and one thing in particular that's very interesting, which I agree with, but I want you to explain it a little bit more for the people that are watching. Because I think with beauty, you oftentimes hear clean, you hear organic, hear sustainable, and you're saying those aren't brand pillars, they're actually product promises, right? And that's a hot take for a lot of founders who lead with those promises. Can you explain what you mean by that and what, for you, what is a real brand pillar? How do you think about
Yeah.
brand pillars and how do you establish them?
So I believe in this wholeheartedly. And you know, these things can be important to you, right? And your point of view and
Yeah.
perspective and your formulation philosophy, that's essential. Those can be pillars in your formulation philosophy, but they can't be brand pillars because the perception on what they are is honestly a little bit subjective, and people's relationship to it changes. You know, like clean
Yeah.
isn't as trending as it is anymore. So just like leaning on a brand pillar that's a trend, for me, as someone who like loves marketing and studies brands, I think of brand pillars as like just much bigger concepts that are like core to who your brand is. So for us, that's time. These are things that can be brand codes. If you look at a brand like Chanel, for
Mm.
example, there are things that are just codes of the house. Like even if the thing isn't Chanel, but you see tweed or you see pearls or you see chains, like you think Chanel without, even if it isn't a Chanel piece,
Yeah.
you know?
Even
So yeah, even without it being Chanel. And I think that's like what makes an extraordinary brand, is not these things that can be owned by everybody, but things that can be owned by you. So like, what are the things that feel really you? And I think so much of that magic is like, as a founder, if you're a founder out there, or a creative leader, like thinking about your lens on things, like there's really no way to be original in any way. People can have the same idea. So don't get angry if someone has the same idea or feels like they're copying you. Like the truth is you are the only person who can be you and can like bring these references and these core things that have meaning to you together in a way that is through your lens. So, you know, I am so proud that we're clean. It is so much work to make high performing products that are clean. I will tell you, it is much easier to formulate products that are not clean. And I do think that's a really unique point of difference for us, you know, and I think people might discover us because they're looking for that. Or when you look at the landscape, it's like, oh, that's cool that they are high performance and clean. But for me, a brand pillar is more about the soul of your brand and why you
Mm.
exist.
Yeah.
And I think sustainability is a really interesting one. My approach personally is about holistic sustainability. So putting products that, fewer, better products into the world, products that last. I have my comb right here, which is handmade in
So
Switzerland.
beautiful.
Yeah, plant-based cellulose acetate. Like if I'm going to launch things into the world, this is technically sustainable. It's literally plant-based cellulose acetate that degrades like and you can compost it over time. But it's also like, this is a beautiful thing. This is not a throwaway
Yeah.
object. I would rather you buy fewer, better things. But I don't know. To me, it's like I'm delivering to you on that product promise. That to me is like, there's so much more joy and fun and excitement when thinking about like brand world, you know?
Mm-hmm. And let's talk about that, because time is something you briefly alluded to, but you said Crown Affair is built around the idea of time. So time as the ultimate luxury, or is ultimate luxury. So how did you land on that? And then how does that show up across your products, across your campaigns, your advertising, your
Yeah.
whole brand world?
And time is obviously like a very complex universal concept, right? You could have a brand that's
Yeah.
anchored around honey or watermelon or this type, like you can have a brand entirely based around ingredients, by the way, or like K beauty, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't need to be as complex as time. Time is a really fascinating topic to me. Part of why I chose it is because it will forever be an endlessly interesting concept to me. And that means that there's endlessly interesting ideas to play with it in Crown Affair. And, you know, the first one for me is that time is the ultimate luxury that we all have. I think that is something that we come to learn in time. You hear people say it, right? In the last moments of their life, like it really is just about time. It's also for me, like as a customer of so many other things, I think that someone taking time to make something is a luxury, right? Like the amount of time that went into product development or crafting something, like that's a luxury to me that I really respect. It could be in handbags or a hairbrush or whatever. Also, time is just like really valuable to so many of us, whether you're a busy mom or running a company or taking care of a family member or just trying to live a full, complete life. Like time matters and how you spend it matters. And I want to give people time back. So we do say take your time as a call to action to like slow down, giving you permission to take care of yourself in the sacred spaces. For me, one of my sacred spaces is my bathroom. So it's kind of like a permission slip to like do the rituals that make me feel good. But it's also making things like the dry shampoo. I'm currently on day 4 hair. I did not have time to fully shower yesterday. So like that is also a luxury.
Same.
So there's, like there's a lot of meaning.
It's
like
a huge luxury. Like you get ready in 4 minutes versus in an hour,
It's amazing. It's really, and I just love it. Conceptually, it's beautiful. I love clocks. I love hourglasses. I think there's so much to play with there. And, the biggest thing for me is building a timeless brand too. I want to grow with our customers and grow with our audience, and we all evolve and grow in time. So that's been another reason that it's been such a fun core pillar, is because the conversations we have. Oh, and then also like your hair takes time to grow. And I think this is just a little reminder that like, it takes patience and care and consistency. Like that's a really big part of Crown Affair. Of course, we want to make products that you feel the immediate results, whether you're putting a leave-in conditioner in your hair or using the dry shampoo, you want it to work right away. But even more powerful is like switching up your aerosol dry shampoo to the Crown Affair dry shampoo, and 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, your hair is growing better. It feels silkier like that. Those are beautiful markers as well.
I have a question for you that's sort of off the cuff too, because you were able to raise money too for Crown Affair, right? In a time when beauty has been historically more saturated over the past 10 years, call it, right? Like it's like everybody is creating beauty brands. You are also seeing exits. How are you able to stand out, like using perhaps your brand or your own story? How did you sort of break through all the noise that's in this space?
I think there's a couple things, and there were different kind of points on the timeline that I raised capital. So the first time that I raised capital was our seed round, which was in the end of 2019, right before COVID happened. So culturally, that was a little bit of a different point in terms of fundraising. I will say there was more momentum for people in general in every category when you were raising capital. But since then, with the Series A and the B, it has been in the thick of it all with COVID, and hasn't always been easy for people to raise capital at this time. But I think for us, it's a couple things. One, the extraordinary conviction, especially in the early years, like your early seed round. I always say, like, you're not really betting on the horse, you're betting on the jockey, because like so many conditions can change and you need a really good jockey. So we saw this with COVID. If you were someone who owned a travel company or a wedding company, like, it's more about your ability to navigate than it is necessarily the market conditions. So that's an important thing to keep in mind when you go into these rooms. And I always think, like, you have to be in the headspace that they're very lucky to invest in you. You are about to do all of this work and build this business, and like, they're lucky to be there is the energy you need to go in with. Like, and the other piece.
I so agree with that. They're lucky to be there. You have to reframe it.
You got to reframe it and just be like, I'm about to build something so special. You get to be a part of this. Advice that people say all the time, but I will reiterate it now here, is like, you ask for money, you get advice. You ask for advice, you get money. And I think that that's a really key part of fundraising too, is just like bringing people along on the journey. And by doing that, they're going to be like, wait, I want in. So that, I think, has been helpful, but more like, at the end of the day, that's really only the first seed or maybe a round. At the end of the day, like, the spreadsheets are the spreadsheets, the numbers are the numbers. Like, you can only like convince. It's like the business really has to work. And I think something that's been so powerful for us is just, one, like, the product's amazing. Like, I've never compromised on product.
Did you bring your product into those VC meetings? Like, did you have something to show them, or was it more a beautiful deck explaining the brand and the product suite that you were going to have?
We had samples of our first product. So we launched with the comb, handmade in Switzerland, the brush, handmade in Italy, the oil, which was our first product, my first formula product, and then the towel, which is made in Korea. We still use the same partners and vendors since pre-launch to this day. Cool. Because it's so important to me to have quality. I could talk all day. Investors could be like, we'll get the margins down and produce it in this place that's way cheaper. But like, that quality piece is so important to me. And I think that's actually what sustained the loyalty of the customer that we have. So I did go in, but it wasn't like, it was very casual. It was like, here's the brand visual universe. It was nice for them to touch and feel. But it was very, casual. And every round after that, the product was live in the world. So the investors were either ordering product or we were sending them product. And, it really is a word of mouth business. I think if you're not a huge celebrity or a huge influencer, like, the product needs to be extraordinary, and that's how people need to hear about it. And then when people try the product, they need to love it. And that's really the only reason I joke that we're still like in business and around and growing as quickly as we are, is because I don't have a silver bullet lever. It is so magical when a huge celebrity like Dakota Johnson or Gwyneth Paltrow or Rosie Huntington or whoever is like, or the girl from Love Story, Sarah Pigeon, just posted on Vogue that she loves the totally organic, amazing. And you get little bumps, but at the end of the day, it's like, it's the customers and the real community that spread the gospel. So I think that's been like the core differentiator. And then the last thing I'll say is like, being really clear that you cannot be everything to everyone, and knowing who you're making it for.
So true.
Is key. And I think being like authentically prestige and clean, like truly like knowing who I'm making this for. When we have investors come in, they're so locked in on the space that we occupy, and it's not muddled down of where we're sitting. And I think that's been really helpful, because like dating, it's like, if you are aligned on your core values of who you're building for and how you want to grow, like, you feel that in a relationship, Completely.
I do want to talk about, because you mentioned Gwyneth and Dakota and all these incredible people that have posted about you and gone out there and evangelized your brand. But from the early days, you were big into PR and editorial. Can you talk about how you went about pitching press early, and when you didn't yet have scale, and what your thoughts are on owning your own PR versus actually hiring an agency?
Yeah. Well, this is a really funny story. I'll paint the picture. So it's January of 2020. And I was working with one guy, this guy named Ben, who was our head of PR when I worked at Away, the luggage company, back in 2016, 2017. And I hired him as a contractor, just like me and him sitting on the floor, putting together the PR architecture, the pitches. Like, it was just us. I could not afford a big agency or a huge retainer. And we were sending out, pitches. And we had both had success in our careers before and had, wins on the PR front. But I will tell you, from a beauty perspective, most editors were like, who are you? You're not going to blow out my hair? Like, what's happening? Like, what is this whole ritual? What do you mean
You're
the
not gonna
art of
blow up my hair.
yeah, like you're not a professional stylist
Did
of
you
20
go
years.
in and actually do the ritual to them though?
Well, it's yes, a little like we went over it and we like touched her. My whole thing is like the art of the air dry and like getting to know your hair yourself. And it's really about empowering us this 60 to 90 days beyond the salon, which has been my thing from day one. And we're now seeing more brands jump on that bandwagon. But like prior to that, that was not a thing. like it really wasn't. It was only like professional stylists and even all the content in the world on hair care prior to Crown Affair was like professional stylist, model and chair with wet hair, blowing out hair, like every single website. And now there's been a category change, which is so amazing to lead and pioneer that. But at the time, it was like people didn't totally get it. They understood the heritage piece, they got the clean piece, but I don't think they really understood that like empowering your relationship to your hair at home and this being kind of a bigger mission. So people were like, yeah, we'll include you in a roundup. Like I remember Vogue was like, we'll include you in a roundup on Tuesday, whatever. And then here's what I'm about to say. That was like the Tuesday, Wednesday before we launched, a week from launch on January 28th. We had then sent out 30 PR mailers. Granted, I know this was 2020 and it's 2026 now, so the world is very different. But at the time, we sent out 300 mailers. Everyone started posting Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Literally by Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Ben called me and was like, Vogue wants to do the exclusive. This person wants to do the exclusive. Like the culture was talking about Crown Affair. I had amazing people posting, whether it was like the Jenna Lyonses of the world or like the Violet. People were just posting. And then that's when people want to talk about it. And I think that's what people get wrong about PR is like, even then, and obviously the landscape has changed. It's like editors and journalists want to write about what they're seeing. They want to write about things that they're excited about. And what that was, that mailer. And there's other ways to do that now. I know that sending a mailer isn't.
I'm like dying to know what's in the mailer.
It was the comb, it was our oil, it was a tote bag. It was just like a cute little Crown Affair launch mailer, but it was everywhere. And then editors, every single editor we went out to was like, I want to write about this. And I think even to this day, it's like, how do you build that excitement and momentum?
Would you have your story also in that mailer, like some sort of material about like what you talked about?
Collateral. Like it was one of these collateral cards that had my story and the mission on it. But the 300 people are people that I've worked with over the last decade. It was people that I worked with at Away, people I worked with at Voices. Yeah. So I had all these people that I had done paid partnerships with at other brands, you know? So they were kind of just doing me a solid. And I think that's what's so important as you build your career is to like maintain these relationships so that when your moment comes with your thing, you're like, by the way, we did all these partnerships together at Harry's or Away or Outdoor Voices. Like I'm launching my brand now. And like that was a huge part of it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I want to also talk about your personal brand because that is part of your personal brand, right? You had established all these relationships with these individuals that you had worked with over time, but also collaborated with. Maybe they didn't work directly within the company you were in, but you also have a great personal brand. So I do want to talk about that. You've talked about your TikTok twist and clip video that got 4 million views overnight, which is something you didn't specifically plan or strategize. And how has being an external facing founder shaped Crown Affair's growth? And what do you wish you had learned sooner? Because as you sort of think about personal brand, and we posted this morning on FFC, that funny clip of Katy Perry, but we keep talking about how with consumer founders specifically, it's so important that the founder is external facing. So can you share a little bit about like, if there has been a strategy, even if the TikTok one was not?
Yes, there is a strategy now. You know, when I launched the brand 6 weeks before COVID, I always knew I'd be an external facing founder with things like this, with podcasts, with interviews. I love being in person. I love going to stores. Like I love being out there, but never did I think I would ever be like a content creator, you know, and thinking about how I never spent time making content before. I was just, you know, moving through the world. And then COVID really changed everything. But I have to tell you, I'm definitely more millennial than I am Gen Z. I'm also not Gen Z, but even just from a mindset standpoint, I know a lot of millennial founders who are very Gen Z in their mindset. And I've always just been really slow. I mean, I wish that I jumped on trains earlier with TikTok. I was 2 years late to TikTok. Because these things are not where I get my joy necessarily. I'll say one thing that I love doing that I really enjoy is Substack. And I jumped on that train early because I love to write and I love long form and I love connecting with the community on there. And there aren't any ads. And it's just like the most magical place on the internet where people still have attention spans. But I do think it's really important to get yourself out there. And it allows you to tell stories beyond just your brand. I think something that's challenging for me is like, I'm not naturally an entertainer and I'm not somebody who like dances and lip syncs. So I definitely am like, I get on and I'm like, let me tell you about the product, or like, I just took this trip, or like, I love this artist or something. Like, it's not my core DNA, but you got to just get the reps in and do it. And remember that like
even the non-core to beauty stuff still helps you, like the trips that you're taking and things like that.
Yes. And you need to remember that it's not just how many people you reach, it's how many people you move, like truly move. And I think I'd rather do like a long form yap doing my gua sha or brushing my hair. And if like 3,000 people really love that and 12 people are like, wow, I really love it, it's like that matters, And then of course you get the amazing ones that pop off and 4 million views or hundreds of thousands of views or a Substack that gets tons of shares. But at the end of the day, it's really about consistency. And as much as I'd love to say it doesn't matter, the truth is like, it's an opportunity. It's a way to get more opportunities as well. Like, especially if you're a brand that's at a big retailer, like having a social platform is super helpful. And it's a part of connecting and collaborating with people. And again, it's not how I grew my business. It's not my core DNA. There's founders out there that I think are extraordinary on social media. Like Charlotte from Do, for example, is an amazing example of someone who I think is really intelligent, has built a beautiful platform of storytelling beyond Do. And then obviously Do as a skincare brand is amazing. And then, there's so many different ways to build businesses now. We have founders that are content creators first that are trying to reverse engineer brands. And then I have friends who are amazing brand founders or chemists who like, it's really hard for them to make content. And the truth is like, you just have to try because it is a way to reach people. And it's okay if it's not easy. I relate to all of you out there who are like, oh, this is so cringe, but find a way to make it feel good for you. And, it's funny, it's going to be announced tomorrow, but I'm actually launching my own video podcast called Take Your Time, which is an extension of my Substack. It's so beautiful. I'm like, do I have you guys can follow it on Instagram right now. It's called Take Your Time Universe. Like,
oh, gorgeous.
The whole thing's going live tomorrow. There's like a full brand that I built out to have longer form conversations because that's what feels good to me. So like, you'll start to see that roll out. And it's taken me 3.5 years to figure this out, but you just have to start.
So talk to me a little bit about the consistency piece, right? Because you do Substack and then you do your own content. And you've said also that you can say things as Dianna that Crown Affair can't say as a brand. Can you give founders, like, if there's any frameworks that you use where you're like, I spend 4 hours a week. By the way, I don't know what is going on with my lighting, guys. It's like poltergeist in here and it like keeps like blinking. So apologies if that's giving anybody a headache. I might turn it off in a second, but I'd love to hear your framework.
Yeah, no, I mean, I wish I was more of a linear thinker. The truth is I'm somebody who has 1,000 metaphorical and literal 7,000 tabs open at all times. So I think it's a balance of both. I think so much of the fun of social media is just being kind of real time with it and like jumping on Substack notes and being like, this is really fun to me, or filming a TikTok that's in the moment. But it's also really nice to have structure around things. So my team uses Asana. I love Asana as a project management tool. And I have my own project that's Dianna Cohen Content Calendar that's totally separate of Crown Affair. And It has the Substacks I'm going to write. It has TikTok ideas. It has Instagram ideas. I'm not an influencer first. Like, I'm not a content machine. I'm doing most of this on my own is the truth. So I wish I could clone myself, and maybe one day I'll figure out how to use Claude and clone myself. But right now I'm putting soul into it, and I respect my audience. I don't just want to like jump around singing a trending song. I'm sure that would like help me grow. And if that feels good for you, you should do that. But for me, like, I really take the time to map out the calendar and what I'm going to share, because I respect, your time. I respect our everybody's time. So for me, that's been helpful. And I think like tactically, like, batching a bunch of content is great. If you're like in the mood and you got your TikTok camera on, make a bunch of content. So you have like 7 videos for later. You can like organize things into folders and do swipes. Sometimes it doesn't need to be overly complicated. I know sometimes people don't even like putting themselves out there. So you can still put together content formats with photos and stills or B-roll or things like that and voiceover. Like you can really get creative depending on what you're feeling. But I would say like give yourself breaks. You don't need to film every day. Like I know that I'm much more creative at night. So that's when I end up writing most of my Substack posts and doing things. You just kind of have to learn your rhythms and it's okay. You know, like
AI, like that's not a big part of
spell check. Yeah, I wish I was one of those founders that's like, I use AI all the time, but I use it to be like, grammatically, does this work? And it catches stuff for me. But to be honest with you, I tried to train it. I like the way that I sound over the way that it sounds. And, you know, I'll have it draft some like, okay, I want to write about, but like, I'm not using AI in a huge way. And maybe
what
that's
I found, because I love to write as well, is that if I'll write something and then I'm like, my intention is to convey this, this, and this. Can you perfect it? It's like I use it more as my editor than my writer.
Correct. I'm using it the same way. Or I'll be like, hey, I'm word vomiting this. I actually need it to be 3 sentences. Can you try to figure this out to be 3 sentences or something like that?
Yep.
But the brain power that I don't have. But no, I think also like content formats, knowing your pillars. For me, it's like hair, crown affair, entrepreneurship, art, a little bit of fashion. I mean, that might even be too many, you know, but like sit down and outline what is working for you, what brings you joy, and then you know, just start by getting consistent. I think that's the main thing. Try to post every day on TikTok, even if it's just a little thing. You don't have to film it in real time. And start also, don't try to do it all. Like figure out the platform that's most impactful for you. I think like Instagram, for example, like I emotionally prioritize because I'm millennial. But the truth is if you look at the data, like I'm kind of just megaphoning to the same people. So like, do I need to post every day? Absolutely not. In fact, it's a little fatiguing where like TikTok is like, much more top of funnel, new audience. Emotionally, I care about it less. I don't look at it until like 3 p.m. every day, but like it's actually more impactful. So I would say look at your insights and data as well to get a sense of what's important for you.
And how to steer your time. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to talk about Shop My and Like to Know It because they've changed how founders work with creators at every level, right? How are you thinking about affiliate and creator commerce tools as part of your marketing mix? And just in general, how do you think about working with other creators?
So important. I think creators are one of the most important ways that you find out about things. You know, now I think it takes like 12 to 16 times to even see a brand or a product before someone converts. It used to be like 5 to 7 when I was starting out in e-commerce over a decade ago. So having a creator tell your story for you, and that could be in a paid capacity, but also organic. And for me, it's really important when I work with creators that they authentically love Crown. I mean, the blessing of Crown Affair is that like people love it if they love it. You know, I've worked in categories, for example, working in the razor space is a lot harder than working in, you know, elegant hair care products. So I think that's really powerful and something to remember as a brand founder, how you're thinking about your marketing spend is like, we've worked with creators on paid campaigns or things where we're like, post on this date at this time and we're paying you to do that. And it'll do okay. And then 2 weeks later, they'll just screenshot the leave-in conditioner and stories and that will crush it with affiliate, you know? So you have to think about these things as holistic relationships. It's not just the one-off. It's them authentically integrating the product over time. Because again, that's how you get to like 16 times over the course of a year. You've seen it from this person. You really trust them. And at the end of the day, like I know that I'm most inspired by people's personal taste and what they recommend, and I trust them. So I think creators are so important. And we use Shop My, we use Like to Know It. I love Shop My. I'm personally on it as a creator. I'll toggle between the Dianna Cohen and the Crown Affair accounts, and it's so much fun to see who moves the needle. And I think you'll be really surprised, again, going back to the data, like our top performing converters are not who you would expect. Half of them are people that don't even know their faces, like things I bought and liked, for example. A lot of them are dermatologists. I mean, we have one derm who like I've never even spoken to. And I think that's the thing too, is like the way that you feel about a relationship could be one thing, but at the end of the day, it's like the data does not lie. And we have creators that I've never met, never spoken to, someone who just has like a book account, like a book talk account that like loves books and champagne and has posted Crown Affairs so many times and has sold hundreds of thousands of dollars of the dry shampoo or the towel. So like you gotta just look at that information and support where you can. But no, I think the creator community is so important. And the other piece of advice and part of why I love being on these platforms is that you can engage with them. And I think having a touch point beyond the brand as a founder can be really powerful. So when you see somebody include or whatever your product in their video, don't just do it from the brand, like engage and hopefully authentically be excited that they're it.
And you talked about so engagement outside of just your consumers, but you also mentioned community. And Hebe Chan actually asked a question. She said, community is such a broad term, but for an e-commerce brand that's mostly online, what does community actually mean in practice for you? And what are some of the affordable in-person touch points for a brand that's just starting out?
Community, I think, is a word has lost all meaning. So I completely relate to you who asked the question. Thank you. It's so true. I mean, community means literally different things. So I'll give you an example of community that's very important to me that's not online, like in terms of influencing at all. Our mentorship program, Seedling, is a 6-week mentorship program that we've done 7 seasons of and have had over 700 women a part of the program. We do have a private LinkedIn group. We have meetups. It's not about posting. It's not about buying. Of course, these women, a lot of them are also customers of Crown Affair, but it's like authentic community and supporting each other. And that is what community is. It's like being in
Not with a
care.
goal to drive product conversion.
No, of course, it's amazing that people buy product and buy it for their moms and their sisters in the holiday, but it truly is to help women on their way because mentors have been such a huge part of my life. And I love pairing women early in their careers with women like us. And it's such a low lift commitment. It's like an hour a week for it's really 8 weeks long with the opening and closing, but it's life changing. People have met business partners, roommates, moved, connected. It's such a special kind of badge of honor being a seedling. And that's a form of community that's really important to me.
How did people become part of it? I'm sure every single person here is going to want to be.
We do it once a year in the fall and we open up applications, usually in September, and it's an application process so we can really get to know you and pair you with the right person on both sides, because I also believe mentorship goes both ways. It's not just the person who is more seasoned and older. It's really we have a lot to learn from each other. So Elaine, who's my CEO, and I always just grab a bottle of wine and spend time pairing people. And to me, it's that is what's really powerful. But also community is being good to your customers, Reddit threads, for example. I'm not active on Reddit, but I will see people be like, why are these clips the cost that they are? Are they crazy out of their mind? And then people are like, this is crazy. You can buy 5 clips at wherever, Amazon, the cheapest made clips, whatever, which by the way, buy those too if you want them. You know what I mean? But then you see people just defending Crown Affair, being like, these are the best clips I've ever had. They're so much better. And it's
They're beautiful.
Well, that's community too, is taking care of your customer, because that's how they come to your support. And that to me is everything. And then of course there's the influencer community, there's events. And just to use events as an example, there's so many different goals you could have for an event. You could have an intimate editor event or high tier influencer. You could have an event that's all about earned media value. That's about the splashiness and the visual. You can have an event that's a coffee meetup that's talking about hair. And it's those are all different forms of community. And, Sephora is a really big one for us too. Yes, we are a digital e-commerce company, as was mentioned in the question, but we're in every single Sephora door across the country now. I started with 55 stores. I have crawled my way day in, day out. We got to 200 a year and a half ago. Amazing. We're now at over 600 doors. And I flew to Vancouver. I got on a 18-hour trip from Miami to Vancouver this week to be in person with those beauty advisors and educate them and train them. And that matters because they go home feeling more empowered. And my mission is to make people feel more empowered with their hair. And I think especially beauty advisors don't feel empowered because they're not professional stylists. They don't know how to achieve this thing. And my mission is to educate them to be it's really about care. And when your client comes in and they feel disempowered, what do those conversations look like? It's a whole different perspective. So that is community as well. And these things take time. They don't happen overnight. It's not huge celebrity posting a product and it all is that's that community. That's a different thing. So, the long-winded answer that there's many different facets to this. And I think about it in a lot of different ways. There's a great question.
I completely agree. And I think it's it is whatever it means to you too, and your different touch points. Final question for you. And then I think we have just a couple rapid fire, then we're going to let you go because you've been so generous with your time. And that's around building your team. And this is a whole topic that could be its own hour. But we had a question from a member, but I also had a question that relates to it. And that's that you mentioned you have a CEO. And one of the things that we talk about in Founders Operating Manual is whether or not you should be the CEO of the business or who else you need around you to build the business you want to build, right? So when it comes to building the team, first of all, when and how did you decide that you needed a CEO outside of yourself? And then separately, when it comes to a marketing team, what are the most important hires? And what are your thoughts on what should be in-house versus contractors or agencies?
Yeah. So I was the founder and CEO from 0 to 5 years of the business. So I think it's great to be the CEO if you're also the founder in the early days, because at the end of the day, you are the chief executive who is making the final decisions and the buck stops with you. However, if you get to the privileged position of building a real business, for us, that was hitting over 20 million in revenue. I'm like, I'm no longer the person to take this to 50 million and 80 million and 100. Like, you do want to bring in the right team. So I really see it as a privilege to step away from that responsibility because there's someone who's much more seasoned than me. And that's not an overnight process. That's a lot of releasing the ego. That's a lot of coaching. That's a lot of trust, not just saying you trust, but authentic trust. And that took me about 1.5 years to kind of process, if I'm being transparent.
By the way,
yeah, it's not easy. It really isn't, but it's a gift to do it. And, my first hire was an operator, was my VP of operations, a woman named Elaine Choi. And she joined me, and it was 2 of us, it wasn't like we had a huge team, and she grew and has just taken on so much and has become my right hand and everything. And we got to a point at year 5 where it was clearly time. She was really doing the role of the CEO almost. And we kind of had a conversation of like, do we think you can kind of grow into this role, or do we do what like a hired gun is? And you see this a lot, right? With Glossier right now, people in the industry, in the beauty industry, there's kind of the like, bring in the call in, because he was the CEO at Way with Jen Atkin. And it's like, you want to find a call in type is kind of the joke. And, for us, that's not where we're at. I think it was the right decision to elevate internally versus like bringing in a hired gun, because I've also seen how that can go wrong. Not to circle it back to the beginning of our conversation, but when I was with Outdoor Voices, they brought a lot of senior leadership from Lululemon and Under Armour, and you think that you're bringing in someone who can be a hired gun, but it takes months to integrate people, and trying to bring in 3 senior people at once, like it doesn't work. And I always say this is why time is so important, because you can have all the resources, throw all the money in anything, and the one thing you cannot fake is time. You just have to have it pass. And I think that's what you really have to think about with your team is like, who are the top people that are going to grow with you to the next level? And then also to your point of like, when do you hire someone in-house versus when do you have a consultant or an agency, is that I think like who you build with day 1 might not be who's with you on day 5. And you really need to set the tone of who's going to graduate. So like younger, more junior employees, like they will graduate after year 3, and you have to plan into these evolutions. So, and then also like, if you can't afford to hire the most senior person, but there's a great consultant out there, start with that. And maybe they become full-time, or maybe they help you find the right person for that year, but you have to think about these things in years.
And then 2 final questions for you. And I love all of that advice. It's so true that time, it all comes back to time once again. But one is a more broad question in terms of looking back at your younger self and who you were as a founder. Do you have any specific advice or overriding philosophies that helped guide you through to where you are now and to grow Crown Affair?
Metaphorically sitting on your hands and not just jumping on trends or opportunities, I think is very important. And saying no when exciting opportunities come your way, because you can very easily spread yourself too thin, and you need to have a really good person next to you being like, yes, it's very sexy to launch in the UK, or yes, it's very sexy to do this thing, but right now it does not make sense from a cash flow perspective. I think that restraint, that editing, that saying no, which is not easy to do, is the thing that keeps your brand alive. And I think about this a lot with like, I call them pinches of poison. It's like, if you do too many things that aren't authentic to you, like all of a sudden you're going to like launch a lip gloss or do this like scent that's totally trending, but not for you. It's like, Yeah, it's gonna do well up front. Like those things sell, but at the end of the day, it like slowly alienates who you're actually making this for. And that's why it's not a full dose of poison. It's just a little pinch. It's not gonna kill you, but like, they will add up over time. So whatever that, summarized piece of advice is like it's essentially staying true to who you are and having restraint.
And the final thing is, where can people find you?
Crown Affair on Instagram, TikTok. Give us a follow on TikTok. It's so hard to grow there, but we're doing a lot of fun stuff there. Dianna Cohen, Dianna with 2 N's. You see my name spelled here on Instagram, TikTok, all the things. Please say hi. I genuinely love engaging with the community. So if you joined today and you want to chat about stuff or you want to learn more about what I talked about, like literally put a comment. I will reply to it on TikTok. And then you can follow it now, but it's being announced tomorrow. TakeYourTimeUniverse.com.
Yay.
Podcast. The first episode launches next week. So please give that a listen. I will be a lot more of what we are doing today, which is having fun conversations and thoughtful ones.
Amazing. We will all be tuning in. And everybody else, we are going to be staying on with Avery Bradford. So if you want to hang around, we'll still be here. And Dianna, we are so, so grateful for you and all of your time.
Allie, thank you so much.
Thing
Oh my gosh, truly, thank you. Right back at you guys. This was so special. I appreciate you gathering this community and all the work that you do to bring this community together. It's so important. So thank you.
Thank you. You're the best. Hi.
Hi. It's been a while since we've done one of these. I'm going to sort of take the reins and talk to you a little bit and turn the mic over to you because we've done something really special today, specifically for the folks who have RSVP'd for this session and joined this session. We have extended our application to join the 10th house until today for you all. So after this session, I'm going to send you out an email with not only a link to the replay, but access to applications, which will be special for you all. So
look out for Avery's email, everybody.
Yep. I'll send you an email out later today within a few hours after this. But I wanted to hop on with Allie because we've done something really special for this cohort. So not only do you get access to events like this inside of the 10th house, and inside of the 10th house, they're a little bit different. So today, Allie moderated the session and she was able to ask questions on your behalf. But if you're a 10th house member, you can actually ask these questions face to face because we do small group fireside chats. But in addition to our events and resources, we've actually introduced Founders Operating Manual. And for the first time, we are turning it into an 8-week program. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Founders Operating Manual, Allie. But first, before we dive into the structure, can you tell us what Founders Operating Manual is and why you've introduced it to the 10th house?
Yeah, and you guys, I'm just so excited that Avery is here, by the way, because it's like she's always behind the scenes, and really she should be in front of the scenes because she's this glorious human who is always packaging up all of this information so that you guys can get it as efficiently and effectively as possible. So big ups and thank you to Avery. So Founders Operating Manual. You guys, we have been doing this now. We've been doing 10th house for, I think it's our 5th. Yeah, it's going to be our 5th year. So for 5 years, we've been taking in all of this data. And before that, we had the free community. So we've been doing this for about 7 or 8 years at this point. And so we've seen thousands of founders and the same questions kept coming up. And those questions were, what is my role? Where should I spend my time? How many of you guys who are listening has ever asked yourself, like, what could I be doing more efficiently? Because I don't know about you, but as a founder, it feels often like you have a growing to-do list and priority list versus a declining one. And it's just like you check one thing off and then another thing arises. And all day long, it feels like you're putting out fires. So I had to, in starting a number of startups, come up with a system where there were very clear priorities. I had very clear decision filters, but also I had to figure out first what was my role, right? In building a business, you have to determine your time is the most valuable thing you have as a founder. And what Dianna talked about with the jockey being the thing that investors get behind, you should be thinking about that too, about yourself, because you're going to be the leader of this business. You're going to be carrying it forward. You need to prioritize your time. You can't be like, I'm doing everything, but that's okay, because that's what founders are supposed to do. It's not what founders are supposed to do. And so we get really clear and we go through a process, which Avery can probably speak to a little bit as our first session. So Avery, I'm going to hand it over to you to sort of speak about that first process of identifying your role as
Yeah. So something that we're doing is, like I said, we're extending from 4 weeks to 8 weeks. And one of the ways that we're doing that is we're giving founders access to a mix of live fireside chats and co-working sessions in addition to webinars. That way you are able to complete this on your own time in addition.
These are all virtual, by the way, right?
Yep, all virtual. In addition to you being able to get personalized information. So one of the first sessions that we're kicking off with, which Ali was just talking about, is a session with Robin Ward. And Robin has worked with brands like Tower 28 and Home Court and Ritual and these really amazing consumer brands. And she helps them. She comes in to bring them from 0 to 10 million or 10 million to 100 million. Her whole purpose is working with founders and helping them find their identity within their brand and their role within the brand as the company evolves. So that whole first session is really about finding your mission and your role. But then also within that, it's why do people buy into you? So why choose, as we were talking to Dianna about your brand pillars, and it's not just clean or sustainable, but why are people choosing your brand over another brand off the shelf or D2C? And so Robin is going to really help you dig into that. And then the next session that we get into, which Alex nodded
just to build on that too, Avery, the nice thing about that too is I know that Hebe Chan had asked about how you're building. Oh, sorry, Hebe had actually asked about community. Somebody else had asked about growing your marketing team from 0 to 3.
Mm-hmm.
Or how do you decide whether you are hiring an outside agency versus it's going to be an internal person versus what Dianna talked about with, am I going to elevate my operations person to become the CEO, or am I going to look outside and try to get a hired gun, so to speak?
Mm-hmm.
So all of these discussions will sort of be also discussed and sorted through in that section of like, what types of talent do you need now that you know what you're doing?
Yeah. And before I ask you about the other sessions, Ali, we got a question live in the chat, and that was from Miriam. And she says, I joined the monthly membership. Is this separate from Founders Operating Manual? So the answer there is no. So if you are a member of the 10th house, you get access to Founders Operating Manual. And whether you are a current member or a new member, the journey is slightly different, but if you're joining, so let's say you apply today and you join, you will start with the Founders Operating Manual orientation, and then you'll go through the 8-week process. Simultaneously, you'll get access to other things inside of the 10th house, but this is really your foundation. If you grasp this information, then you can access everything else inside of the 10th house with so much more clarity and confidence. But this is really your 8-week accelerator inside of the 10th house. So it is for members of the 10th house. You can also join Founders Operating Manual as its own cohort or as its own accelerator, rather. So if you are saying to yourself, I really want to start with those 8 weeks, feel it out, and then maybe I'll join the full membership, or I know there's some specific sessions I want in there, so I'm just going to do that. You can 100% just join Founders Operating Manual as an accelerator. That's all right too. But yes, if you are a 10th house member, it is a part of your membership. So Ali, we talked about one of the first sessions, and I know we only have a couple of minutes left, so we can get through these next few. But after you understand your role and the role of other people within your business, we also talk about KPIs. So can you talk a little bit about that session?
So the other thing that I've discussed with founders is they're like, I don't know how much money I need, or I don't know how much inventory I should get, or I don't know where to focus my time, right? Like that's the biggest issue that you come up against. Again, going back to sort of the theme of the session with Dianna is all about time. And to be honest, you can't determine where you should be spending your time unless you know what success looks like, unless you know where you are going. So that's sort of the next two sessions, which one is around KPIs, which are key performance indicators. It's basically like, what are your goals? What are the things that you are looking at? And you should be looking at them weekly to determine what success is in your business, right? Like, how are you ensuring that you don't all of a sudden wake up tomorrow and you don't have any cash? Or how are you ensuring that if you do need to hit a certain revenue threshold by a certain time frame, that you are tracking that and you can make all of your decisions in your business based off of those KPIs and those goals, right? So if something that comes up doesn't tie back to or impact that goal in a positive way, then put it off to the side, right? It's a really easy decision filter and matrix to create for yourself. Then the other piece, and then I'll have you talk about the KPIs and also in financials, that is super important, is building your roadmap for your business. If you don't plan, you're planning to fail. We hear that again and again, and it couldn't be more true. I talk to so many founders and they're like, well, I have this like spreadsheet I've put together, or maybe they're tracking it in a Google Doc of like, this is where I think I have to be by this time frame. Don't like estimate or guess around like where you need to be, because you're going to end up lost, or you're going to end up out of business, to be perfectly frank with you. But we bring people in that will help you to create your financial model so that each week you can look at your KPI dashboard and you can look at your financials and go, oh, okay, this is where I am. We're on a good trajectory, or we need to adjust this and this a little bit because we're a little bit off this goal. And that way you never end up in a really dangerous place or in a place where you might go out of business. So it's a really nice way of just always ensuring that things are above board and you're marching in the right direction. Avery, do you want to add to what those sessions include?
Yeah, I'll go through all 8 weeks here succinctly, and then I'd love to give into some of the questions that are coming in live. So as Ali mentioned, week 1 is all about your role as a founder. And then week 2, we really get into your KPIs and we bring in an angel investor and retail expert. She has also invested in really incredible brands. That's where she gets into helping you set up your hero KPI. After that session, you have a very in-depth KPI workbook that you get to go through, which gives people so much clarity, whether you are year 1 or year 10. We got so much great feedback from that workbook of people saying, oh, I was actually chasing a KPI that was irrelevant for my brand, or I've been in business for 5 years and I've never sat down to actually write down what is my North Star and what am I working toward. So we get into that in that session. And then the next session is a live fireside chat where we're going to be talking about PR and social media. And the reason we brought this in was because in the last cohort, that was something that founders really wanted to dig into is, you know, I don't have the money or the time, or it doesn't seem like the right time to bring in an agency. What can I do on my own and what should I be hiring out for? So we're going to be digging into that. And then the session after that is with Erica Moore, who's the former CFO of Goop, and now she has her own financial agency, and she's going to be digging into that financial model that Ali mentioned. And this is digging into those 3, financials that you really need to understand in order to have a full picture of your business. So where in the business are you being bled? Where should you actually be focused on? Is your inventory working against you or for you? All of those questions that as consumer founders, if you don't have an understanding of it, you're not going to be able to really build projections or a true plan. After that session, we will dig into things personally through a co-working session. So you're going to get together with the founders in your cohort, catch up, go through some insightful questions, get to know one another. And then after that, Ali mentioned too that roadmap. So we'll do a 90-day roadmap with Reshma Chamberlain, and she is chief brand officer. She has such amazing insights when it comes to building a brand and go-to-market strategy. So again, whether you're day one or year 10, this information is so insightful. And then we're going to end with another fireside chat. This one, we're going to be talking about monetization. So if you're not making the money that you were hoping to, where should you focus on? But then if you have a goal to fundraise, which I know we got a lot of questions about fundraising today with Dianna, how can you prepare for that fundraise? So that is the snapshot of what we're doing through the 8 weeks. That is all beautifully packaged inside of Circle. One of the questions that we got is, where can I access this? If you are a member of the 10th house, I will be unlocking it inside of Circle. It's locked right now, so you can't see it yet. But when we kick off, so tomorrow is when orientation begins. After orientation, you will get access to that secret space. So right now you can't see it, but it will be there. And something exciting that we're doing this year, and then Allie, I want you to close us out with sharing who this is right for. But something that we're doing this cohort is we're building a reward system in. So for the person who completes every single session, every single survey, every single piece of homework, every person who does that will be entered into a raffle and will win some really amazing prizes, one-on-one time with world-renowned experts and builders. So we're really excited about that as well. So there will be some gamification and rewards for those who really take full advantage of the accelerator. But Allie, to close us out, can you talk a little bit about who this specific cohort is right for and this specific program, and then and then we'll see if
so this is for all consumer brands. So if you have a consumer product in fashion, in beauty, in CPG, and you maybe are doing wholesale, and in addition to direct to consumer, this is right for you. That's the experts that we are bringing in to guide this. And what I love so much about these sessions is that we're not pretending to be experts on everything in this, even though we have a lot of in-house knowledge about how this all works and how to be successful. We're bringing in people that are the best at what they do right now to be teaching it for you all to learn from. So you know that you're getting amazing inputs, and you want to use this to put into your AI models to then run a much leaner organization. This is great because you want to make sure also that your inputs for AI are correct, accurate, and vetted, so that it's not giving you stuff out that isn't so great. But and then you also have the community, which is amazing and is invaluable and is where we started from. As a company, we just felt that that was invaluable to be able to reach out to other people when you're trying to figure out your CRM, or you're trying to figure out, how should I design this job spec, or what are people doing with influencers right now? How are they incentivizing them? Or how long are you working with them over time, so that it becomes a much more conversion and fulfilling relationship. So we are super excited about this, guys. I actually have done all these things in every company that I've been with, whether it was Goop or Girl Boss, and we end up building multi-million dollar organizations off the back of this process. But it also cost me over $100,000 each time, if not more. So we made it purposely really affordable. It's likely going to go up in price in the future. So if you're thinking about it, now is the time to jump in. And I promise that it will be worth your while, and we'd love to see you inside. And then just in terms of stage of business, honestly, I do this every year with my business, because you have to reevaluate, how you're spending your time and what your role is in the business and your numbers and your dashboard. But it's going to be really great for people that are under 5 million generally and just sort of starting to build, because we do have a specific community that is for over 5 million as well. That's really talking about those scale up things. So if you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. We'd love to see you inside though.
Yes, I want to wrap up. I know we took this a little bit over, but a couple of things that just came in. Christine said, I'm such a student at heart. I love the incentives. So I'm glad to hear that. That's our first time doing that with this cohort. And then beyond,
you don't have to attend every one, by the way, guys. Like, if you want to take pieces of this because you've already done some of it, or it feels duplicative to knowledge you already have, it's not required. It's just as much as you want to get out of it.
Right. It's sort of an opt-in, opt-out system. It's
Yeah.
up to you as the founder. For those who are motivated by incentives, definitely do all 8 sessions and all 8 pieces of homework, and then you'll have access to those incentives. And then Bianca said, I can't wait to start tomorrow. I seriously am ready to learn and start on my own. Tomorrow is when we officially kick off this cohort of the 10th house. So please take advantage of your extra hours to apply. And then May 12th is when your founder's operating manual accessory, I'm thinking about consumer, when your program kicks off is May 12th. So tomorrow is your 10th house orientation, and the 12th is your founder's operating manual kickoff orientation. So thank you so much for everyone who joined, whether you just joined this Q&A or the full session. We're so glad that you all were able to be here, but we're thrilled to have you, Colleen. We're thrilled for you to be included too. Thank you so much, Allie.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.